No, I mean, that makes no sense. Like, what? Why? A USC small receiver. I don't get this. I don't even get that. I don't know. I'm trying to stay sane right now because I just...
Well, good morning, friends. Mark Holmes here with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, Bucky the Beaver, and the Funky Chicken. And as always, I got you guys here with me this morning on this Friday morning, finally freaking Friday, on the 17th, just 11 days from Dallas Cowboys opening up training camp. Already, the Seattle Seahawks have open camp. Camps will be opening up for the next week and a half, and I couldn't be more excited. I really could not be more excited. You know, it's funny because the Cowboys, we're back, baby. We're back, okay? After a quiet offseason where they hadn't had much to say about the Dallas Cowboys, now it seems like every show has a segment on, you guessed it, the Dallas Cowboys. And, of course, the Eagles, who recently won 2 Super Bowls, are sitting there butthurt. They're butthurt. They're butthurt because, you know, they can't have everything. But listen here. See, there's a cycle to the system. And typically what happens is the Cowboys don't win the Super Bowl. They're told that they're the worst team that's ever been there. Jerry Jones is the worst GM. Dak Prescott's a choker. They don't care about football. They're really a marketing agency. They don't do anything in free agency. Their draft picks are reaches and guys that could be had in later rounds, and that they stink. But by the time you get to training camp, there's the pivot. Oh, the Cowboys, they're great. After saying they were terrible last year, their coaches suck, their quarterback stinks, now all of a sudden, they're Super Bowl contenders. Case in point.
A player at the party when it comes to the NFC and being a contender.
Hello?
He said Washington could win it twice. Okay. See how they're doing us? Now, I brought up Sean Payton. Sean Payton, his first year with Denver, 8-9. Second year, 10-7. Last year, 14-3. No Super Bowl. Nobody's calling and saying, hey, he's a failure. But I guarantee if the Cowboys go 10-7, it's not going to be considered good enough. Oh, they should have been at the Super Bowl. Nobody's saying Sean Payton, hey, he's got to get to the Super Bowl. You know, they were 14-3 and they disappointed. They choked. They choked. Nobody's saying that. Nobody is saying that about Sean Payton. Nobody is questioning Sean Payton having, you know, a great team, but not getting to the Super Bowl. We're still in the process of building. We're now Super Bowl contenders after having the worst defense in football. You understand that, right? You understand what they're trying to do in pumping us up. And we got people that are falling in line and said, yeah, we're going to the Super Bowl. People, we had one of the historically worst defenses in football last year. By one matrix, the third worst defense since 1977. You understand that, right? I believe 77, we won the Super Bowl as the Dallas Cowboys. You understand that, right? But now we're Super Bowl contenders. Oh, the Cowboys are great. Because, see, this is what they do. Now, see, and this is part of the problem with being the Dallas Cowboys. Because the Dallas Cowboys are always in prime time and always on television. Even when they're bad, they're always on TV. Because Dak Prescott is always overanalyze everything that he does, you see more highlights of the Cowboys. You see more highlights of the players, of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens and things. You don't see that many of Josh Allen. You'll see a couple, but not every single day. It's not always in your face. Okay. We vote for what we know. If we're talking about somebody who's on the Arizona Cardinals, who sees them besides Arizona Cardinal fans? And when we're talking about voting, I believe a third of the votes for Pro Bowl is by the fans. And you know what happens as soon as the Pro Bowl lists come out? Like Miss Jackie, she shares the link. Law Nation, here's the link for Pro Bowl. We are promoting our players for Pro Bowls. We are. I'm not saying that we don't have great players, but sometimes we get guys that, did they really deserve to be in the Pro Bowl this year? Are they really one of the top 2 or 3 in the NFL? And a lot of times, I'm going to say no. We get overhyped. Some of those years that Tyron Smith was Pro Bowler were injured years. It was going by name recognition. It's like the top 100 right now. You're going down through there and you're kind of like, did they really have that good a season last year? No. But they're in the top 100. But let me say, this was some crazy shit. So because Jalen Hurts was rated as the 17th rated quarterback by Jeremy Fowler's list on ESPN, Eagle fans are fighting back because Dak's 6. They're like, oh, I'll take Jalen Hurts over in a heartbeat. Well, they kind of crossed over the line to where they're kind of crazy. Now, I get it. I get what they're hurt. When you're hurt, you lash out. But Eagle fans are now trying to claim Jalen Hurts' 25 season was better than Troy Aikmen. Are you really trying to convince me that Jalen Hurts is better than Hall of Fame Troy Aikmen? Now here's what I'm going to say. Some Cowboy fans might not like what I'm about to say because they were actually in similar situations, very similar situations. Because first of all, I want you to understand, you got to have a good quarterback. And I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts is not a good quarterback. He is. He is. You have to have a good quarterback to win the Super Bowl. However, that quarterback can't win it on his own. Aaron Rodgers has 3 MVPs when he did not win the Super Bowl, having great seasons, but didn't make it to the Super Bowl or win it. You got to have a team. And if there's anything that proves part of the problems with Dak Prescott is exactly this. When Troy Aikmen had the Dallas Cowboys, you had the all-time leading rusher. You had one of the historically greatest offensive lines. You had the playmaker, Hall of Famer. You had good supporting players like Alvin Harper. You had a great tight end in Jay Novacek, and you had a great defense. I believe I said after that 25 season that the Eagles scared the shit out of me because they reminded me of the 90s Dallas Cowboys. Very similar situations. Now, Troy Aikmen was one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL history. But he did not have to do it on his own every single week. It wasn't put on his shoulders that, Troy, we're either going to win or lose by what you do. You might remember Emmitt Smith against the New York Giants separating his shoulder and literally just holding it to his side where he rushed for, 180 yards in the playoffs? You might remember when Emmitt Smith, coming off of a Super Bowl, held out for 2 games, that Troy Aikmen and the Cowboys lost the first 2 games without Emmitt Smith. It's because it was built to be a good team, balanced. And that's the same thing with Jalen Hurts. But if you really, Eagle fans, think that Jalen Hurts is the same as Troy Aikman, we found the dumbest people on the face of the earth. Sorry. I can't see anybody other than an Eagle fan that'll go ahead and confuse Troy Aikman and Jalen Hurts. Similar situations, very similar situations. But I got to tell you, Troy Aikman is not going to have a game where he does not get a single yard in the second half or any points. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. You guys built an incredible team, and your team stayed healthy. And if you think that it's just the quarterback, go back to your first Super Bowl wins. Are we going to look at that and say he was one of the? Are we going to say he was as good as Troy Aikman too? Come on, man. Let's get real here. Now, the scare factor right now is Aaron Donald coming back?
So it's fairly terrifying to consider, but this Aaron Donald story won't go away, and it won't go away because
you're talking about it.
Right? Like that's why stories play out. He's not denying it, and the reason he's not denying it is because he retired early. He was still dominant. Now you've added Myles Garrett on one side, Young on the other. You've got some. I mean, Kobe Turner. It's a real defensive front. It'll be the best defensive front, arguably, in the league. And I look at Aaron Donald, and I think one of the things that I got frustrated with his last year with the Rams, there was video out where he's being triple teamed, not just double, but triple teamed. And I think it kind of wore on him. Like, guys, well, you can't even double team him now. I'm not sure if you could double team him now with Myles Garrett. I think the Aaron Donald thing, he ended healthy. He ended dominant. I don't know, Albert. I kind of think it's got real legs here. Do you?
I do. I think it's going to have to be planned out strategically. And I wonder, too, are they better off having him in September, or are they better off telling him to skip training camp and show up in November? I think that's got to be part of the equation. You know, when you're talking about how many bullets you have left in the gun. I had a really interesting conversation with Eric Weddle about this because Eric, it's not apples for apples, but it was the closest I could come up with. Defensive player. There was a long layoff, and now he came back, right? And so one of the things that was interesting, you know, in the conversation I had with Eric Weddle was how badly the Rams needed him. And they brought him in initially to just play in their nickel, right? Like he was going to be a third down type player. The first week against the Cardinals in the wild card round of the playoffs, he did that. And then during the week, because they were so bare bones at safety because of all the injuries they had, Sean McVay and Raheem Morris went up to Eric Weddle and said, you can play full time this week, right? And he kind of laughed and was like, are you kidding me? And then he wound up doing it. And because he did that, you know, in the divisional round, the championship game, the Super Bowl, he took on a beating that, like, honestly, like he said to me, some of the injuries he still feels from that short comeback. The reason I'm saying this is because the Rams really needed him in that spot. And that, I think, forced him to take on a little bit more than maybe his body was willing to endure at that point. And he got a ring out of it, and there's no regret, whatever. In this case, because of the things that you pointed out, the Rams don't need him to play 60 or 70 snaps a game.
That's right.
Because they have Kobe Turner, because they have Braden Fisk, because they brought in Poona Ford, because they've got Myles Garrett and Byron Young on the edges, they can be very strategic about the way that they use him. And I think that's an important piece of all of this. Here's the other thing. He's so unique as a player. What a nightmare that's going to be for offenses if he's anything close to what he was before. Because imagine you're dealing with these big defensive tackles on first and second down in Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk and Poona Ford. And now all of a sudden here comes Aaron Donald, who's got like that short, squatty build, it's a totally different matchup, you know? And so for linemen to have to adjust to that on the fly, and when he comes off the bench, not knowing where they're going to line him up, they could put him on the edge, you know, if they wanted to. It's fascinating on a lot of different levels. And again, I think they're going to have to be strategic about it, but their depth and their balance along the defensive front, I think, will enable them to do that if he does decide to play.
That's a scary proposition right there if Aaron Donald does come back. So we're getting closer and closer to actually the rubber hitting the road. And I cannot wait because I'm sick and tired of all of the proposed trades. There's one out there now, Josh Sweat for Jalen Carter and things like that. Come on, let's get to the real deal stuff out here instead of the bullshit. All right, we're going to finish this off with, of course, the usual Dak Prescott, the most hated out there. You see what they're doing to us, right? You see what they're doing to us. They're already, ceiling, they're Super Bowl contenders. Come on, man. I'm not there. I'm not there. And I know with the title that I'll put up on here, see, he's talking about Super Bowls. I'm talking about the people that are saying the Cowboys are a Super Bowl team. All right, people, we'll see you later. Peace out.
Cowboys are a soap opera, 365
The
days.
screening will begin
When it gets slow,
momentarily.
I'll stir it up.
Oh, I cannot believe. I can't believe he actually said
I feel
that.
bad for Cowboys fans.
I'm at that point too.
Yeah,
the
that's
fans,
right.
the
Yeah,
players.
the fans.
I owe Dak Prescott an apology, man. I think at some point the players